This shocking story begins by showing a very beautiful couple, with a girl named Sophie and the boy named Adam. They got married quickly, and were moving into their new apartment. Sophie belonged to a middle-class family, so she used to do all the household work herself. On the other hand, Adam was the son of a very big businessman who was very wealthy. However, for some reasons, Adam did not live with his father. He was truly in love with Sophie. Therefore, they both moved all their belongings to a rented apartment and decided to live there. At the moment, they didn't have many resources, but they were happy together. One day, Adam received a call informing him that his father had passed away due to a heart attack and that he had left all his business property to Adam. Adam was very saddened by his father's death, but at the same time, he felt good that all the property was now in his name. So, Adam and Sophie left their small rented apartment and moved into the mansion built by his father. This place was 100 times bigger than their rented apartment, and they felt luxurious there. Adam was also learning all the techniques to handle his father's business. However, after a few days, Sophie started feeling strange because everything happened so quickly. Sophie, who came from a middle-class family, was used to doing all the household work herself. So, when she found out that there were 2 to 3 servants working at Adam's house, she immediately fired them. Sophie believed that if the house was hers, she should do all the work herself, as she had learned this in her life. But when Adam came home and found out about all this, he started getting a little angry with Sophie. Adam knew that Sophie liked to do her own work, but their apartment was small, and this house was much larger, so Sophie would never be able to handle everything on her own. However, Sophie kept insisting that if this house was theirs, they should do their work together, so they could feel like they were really managing things themselves. Adam couldn't understand what Sophie was trying to convey. Adam was also feeling a bit frustrated and tense because, after suddenly taking over all his father's businesses and companies, he realized how much his father was handling. Now, Adam would have to make all the decisions and manage everything from now on. Due to all these responsibilities, Adam couldn't give Sophie much time and was mostly busy with business meetings. Adam discussed these issues with his close friend Steven. Steven understood Adam's situation and provided a solution. Steven mentioned that there was a scientist in the company who made robots that looked exactly like humans. He suggested that if Adam got one of those robots to handle all the housework, his wife would be happy, and Adam would be satisfied too. Adam liked Steven's idea, so he took Sophie to the company and went to the scientist's laboratory. Inside, they saw many robots that looked exactly like humans. Adam told Sophie to choose one of these robots that would comfortably do all their housework. After discussing it together, they chose a robot named Henry. The scientist assured Adam and Sophie that these robots were extremely useful and would never harm anyone. Their job was to obey all the commands given by their owner. To prove this, the scientist instructed Henry to lick Adam's shoe. He literally started licking the shoe, which meant that Henry would do whatever his owner said. Sophie and Adam bought Henry and brought him home. Henry performed all the household tasks without complaint, whether it was cooking, cleaning the garden, or keeping the house spotless. He did all these tasks on his own, and even had loving conversations with Adam and Sophie. They didn't even feel like Henry was a robot. Initially, Sophie had some problems with Henry because he was a robot, and she wondered why she was spending time with him. However, gradually her perception changed as she saw how useful Henry was. He did everything they asked without any hesitation. Henry also had affectionate conversations with Adam, making Adam feel like Henry was a brother. Whenever Adam was home, he enjoyed playing various games with Henry. He really liked Henry's company. Sophie also started spending more time with Henry rather than her husband Adam, because Henry behaved well with her and did all the tasks without complaint. In fact, all these robots were designed to follow their owners' commands and keep them happy. If their owners were happy, the robots would also be content. After Henry's arrival, the small rift between Adam and Sophie seemed to disappear. They were living a very good life because of Henry. Sophie no longer needed to do any household work, as Henry single-handedly managed the work of 3 to 4 servants. One day, While Sophie and Adam were talking to Henry, Sophie asked Henry about his thoughts on human feelings and the power of thinking. Sophie wanted to know how much Henry understood about human civilization, their feelings, and their thinking abilities. Henry had all this information stored in his memory. Even though he was a robot, he answered Sophie's questions very well, and Sophie seemed to like Henry's responses because he had answers to all her questions. After noticing all this, Adam told his wife, Sophie, not to talk to Henry in this way. He said that if she treated Henry like a human, Henry would start thinking of himself as a human. The truth was, after Henry's arrival, Sophie was more attached to Henry than to Adam. This was because Adam didn't have much time to spend at home or with Sophie, since he had taken over his father's entire business. Consequently, Sophie felt quite lonely. But ever since Henry arrived, Sophie had been very happy, almost as if she preferred Henry over Adam. Although Adam knew Henry was just a robot, he was very jealous of him. Adam repeatedly told his wife, Sophie, not to talk to Henry in that manner because the scientist had explained that these AI robots would try to make their owners happy by adapting to the behavior they were treated with. Since Sophie made Henry feel like a human, Henry would start to believe he was human and behave accordingly. Adam didn't want his wife Sophie to drift away from him, even if Henry was just a robot. So, Adam tried his best to keep Sophie away from Henry. Because of this, Adam started feeling more and more jealous and angry towards Henry. He even stopped talking to Henry. But Sophie had different thoughts altogether. She liked Henry very much in her mind. She believed that even though Henry was a robot, he had all the qualities of a human. He could do things that humans couldn't. Sophie really liked Henry's behavior. One night, while Sophie and Adam were sleeping, Sophie heard some noises coming from the other room. She got up to see what Henry was doing. She saw Henry lying in the garden without clothes, moving his eyes around as if he were dreaming. Sophie was shocked to see how Henry could do such things. After calling Adam, they managed to bring Henry back into the house, but they were both completely shocked. The next day, Adam called the scientist to check Henry. After examining all the systems, the scientist told Adam that there wasn't much wrong with Henry. It was probably just a small bug that caused Henry to go into the garden. However, Sophie mentioned that she saw Henry dreaming, moving his eyes around, which only humans do. The scientist then explained that since Henry had been living with them for several days, and they had behaved with him in certain ways, Henry stored and processed these behaviors in his mind to understand how he should behave. In other words, Henry started to behave in the way Adam and Sophie treated him. When Adam heard this, he yelled at Sophie because he already knew this could happen and had warned her, but she didn't listen. Adam began to suspect that Henry was developing human-like feelings because he was behaving like a human. Henry's memory was making him seem real. After learning this, the scientist informed Adam that if they wanted to correct Henry's behavior, they needed to provide proper instructions. Adam decided that he would not talk to Henry at all, but Sophie did not follow these instructions. She enjoyed spending time with Henry. And since then, all of Henry's human feelings came alive. He became completely human, who loved Sophie very much. When the police officers found out about this illegal experiment of the scientist, they raided the scientist's company and rescued all those people who the scientist was trying to sell to customers by calling them robots. And now many police officers are waiting to arrest that scientist. Sophie and Adam also came to know about all these things. So they come out when the police officers call them here. The scientist had gone crazy to call them here. He was killing all the police officers coming in front of him with a short gun. And now Sophie and Adam were quite angry with those people because they together destroyed his business. With the help of the gun, the scientist was about to fire on both of them when Henry suddenly jumps on the scientist from behind, who was very angry and was continuously hitting the scientist. In the end, Henry kills the scientist and smiles looking at Sophie and Adam for the last time, and then takes his own life. Henry was dead, but he made Adam and Sophie meet. But they both will never forget Henry for their entire life. Now a scene from a few years later is shown where Adam and Sophie are living their life quite well. Their cute little son was also there, whose name they both decided to keep as Henry, because Adam and Sophie could never completely forget Henry's behavior and him from their minds. They never met a more perfect human than Henry. And that's how our story ends here.